Next, we're going to build a form and demonstrate some of the functionality from the form builder. So we navigate up here, form, new form. First, we have to choose between a metadata form and an object form. A metadata form is used for subject headings and other controlled vocabularies. Remember back to the PEC form we looked at earlier. The metadata forms are the ones in the left nav and the ones that provide the drop-down and multi-select boxes. Object forms are the ones that represent an actual item in the collection. We'll be creating a simple object form with this example. Now the screen is divided into three areas. Across the top you have your form creator navigation. Right now we just have the form creator button because the form hasn't been created yet. Along the right side we have our preview, and along the left side we have our working area. Since we created an object form, by default the two required fields for an object form have already been created for us. The IDNO, which is the ID number or call number, and the title field, and if you need to you can rename the title field to anything you would like. Form title is just the title that appears across the top of the form. Example, object form. Submit and update buttons are the text that appear on the new insert of an item or an update of an item. Display title is more important for metadata forms, where for the PEC collection, for example, we have the creator personal name, so we have PEC -- creator person names. But then in display title, we may just say personal names and put them underneath a creator subheading in the left navigation. Title field is the field that corresponds to this title object so that the system knows where to find title information. Act as container allows the object to act as a parent container for other objects. This is useful for things like books or find and aid. So for example, you could have a book object, and then you could have chapter objects inside of it, and then inside of those you could have page objects, and you could even go as far as paragraph objects if you like. For find and aid, you could have like a building object, a room, a shelf, a box, a folder, an envelope, and so on. Production ready means that we can enter objects into it, and metadata form tells us that it's a metadata form and not an object form. If we had selected metadata form from the beginning, metadata form would have been checked already. We're going to go ahead and click and make this production ready now, even though it's not, so that we can start adding things right away. Let's go ahead and add a couple fields. First, let's add a single line element. We do that just by dragging it over. Then it brings up the left-hand side working area. Field name is the essentially database name for this field. So we're going to call this username. And then over here we'll have editor. So what this will do is, this is for the person edited and inserting the object so that there's a history of who's worked on it. For value, we're going to go ahead and enter username so that the form automatically fills it in for us. And then down here we don't need any of these other things, so we're going to go ahead and add another field. Let's go ahead and add a multi-select. Now the multi-select, you'll be able to choose it from here, and the options will appear up here. So we'll call this types. Now your choices down here is either manual, which allows you to add or remove and create as many choices as you would like, as well as setting one to default. But we're going to go ahead and pull it from another form, and we're going to use the PEC types form here. Now metadata forms can belong to as many object forms as you want, so you can create a true controlled vocabulary across all of your projects, or you could have projects with their own controlled vocabularies. You can also have it include a make a selection placeholder. This is useful if the field's required and you don't want the first option selected all the time. I'm going to go ahead and select it here. And then select a field as if the metadata form has multiple fields. It allows you to pick which one displays in the dropdown. And those are all the options we need for that one. Let's go ahead and add another single line text. And we're going to call this one date, or let's call it acquisition date. Acquisition date. Now I'm going to use the placeholder text on this one, and this is just the HTML5 placeholder text. And the formats we're going to allow is 4-digit year, dash 4-digit day, or 2-digit day, dash 2-digit month, dash 2-digit day. And we're going to make these optional so that you can have a year by itself, a year and a month, or a year and a day, depending on how specific you would like to get. We're going to go ahead and do that via validation. So we're going to click down here, and these are all the different validations that are available. Date requires a full date, and all of these validations are the ones that are provided by Engine API. So we're going to go ahead and use regular expression, and this allows us to perform arbitrary validations. So we're just going to go the 4-digit year slash 2-digit day, or 2-digit month, 2-digit day. Close that, make it optional, close that, make it optional, close the regular expression. That shouldn't be there, and it seems right. We're not going to make it required either. And let's go ahead and drag the editor down here so that the editor information is not available, and also the editor is not going to be public information, so let's not release that to the public, but let's display it in its table list. Okay, let's go ahead and add a file upload as well while we're at it. So file upload, drag it over, files. Okay, now allowed extensions. WView Libraries scans all of our archival material in TIFF format. So by default, we've set the allowed extension to be TIFF. Now we could always add or remove extensions as we see fit, or edit them. Now this section here controls what options are available to convert the file. Process file in the background is what we usually select. It allows a form to be submitted immediately, but then the files are processed nightly via a cron job instead of processing while people are waiting to work in the web browser. We're going to leave it as processing in the web browser right now for demonstration purposes, but I would recommend moving those to background for any large file sizes. Images allow multiple uploads in a single file. If, say, for example, you have the PC collection or similar collection where you combine in multiple TIFFs into a single PDF, you would select combine into a single PDF, and it would automatically select. This will allow multiple uploads. But say, for example, you have an antique teapot, and you have a picture from the top and all the sides and bottom. You can click allow multiple uploads and upload all those files as once so that all the files are associated with this object. Optical character recognition, combined into a single PDF, does OCR and includes it in the PDF, but it doesn't save the OCR. If you want the OCR saved externally, you would select OCR from there. Convert uploaded file, we are going to do that. That will convert the file for us. And create thumbnail, we'd also like it to create a thumbnail for us. When you check those options, additional options appear down here. So let's say max height, let's do 600 and 400 for width, 192 DPI. Format, all of the formats that are available via ImageMagick are available here as well. We're going to leave it as JPEG. And we're not going to apply a watermark to it, but if we were going to apply a watermark, we would both select our image, none of them have been uploaded right now, and you'd be able to select the location too as to where you'd want the watermark to appear. Let's put a border on it though, and we'll make the border 10 pixels by 10 pixels, and we'll make it a nice red color so that it shows up easily. And then our thumbnail options, 150 by 150 sounds good, and format of JPG sounds good as well. Okay, so now that we have our ID number, title, types, acquisition date, editor, and files. Let's take a look at our ID number. Now the ID number can either be managed by the system or it can be managed by the user. If it's managed by the user will have to enter a unique ID number every time they enter a new object. And if it's managed by the system, it will just be auto-incremented. Now the format down here, by default, it's just blank. But we can do anything we want, and the hash marks are replaced by a zero padded number. So if you're expecting, say, 100 or less items in your collection, you could do example 3, and the auto increment will start at 1, and then it will go 001, 002, etc. Filling it in. Now the hashtags don't have to be in the middle or at the end or beginning. They could be in the middle. They don't have to be delimited or anything. And they could also be there by themselves. So if you know you're going to have 10,000 items in a collection and you don't want anything besides an incremented number, you can just do 5 hashtags. So let's do exam ample. By default, it's released to the public, it's sortable, it's searchable, we display it in the list table, and it's required, no duplicates, and read-only. Okay, so let's go ahead and add this form. So now if we go over to, because we already made it public, we can go over to create, and we can go over to list, and we can see that the object form is available here for creating. And if we list objects by form, it's available here by form. And here it is. And you can see editor and title. We added the editor in. Okay. So now let's go ahead and list our forms. It's here. If we show metadata forms, we see our managed types is linked to there. And we can also see managed types is also linked under printed ephemera collection, so it's been successfully linked between the two forms. Let's go back and edit the form again. And now that we're back on the form editor page, along the top navigation we see some new options. We have assigned projects, navigation creator, form permissions, and delete form. We're going to leave assigned projects alone for right now. But let's go ahead and do some navigation creation. Just like in the form creator, the navigation creator is drag and drop, and we just want to add a couple things over right now. So we're going to add a link. This is going to be new object, and our new object URL is here. And we'll add another link, and this will be our list, just so we don't have to navigate around as much. We're just create it up in the left navigation there. And new group, and allows us to do a new group. And so if you look at the printed ephemera collection, creators, subjects, types, export, and those are all groupings, and then you can put things under the groups there. You can do the same thing with field sets over in the form itself. We're not going to create a group right now though, because there's really no reason to, and then we can just drag metadata forms over as well. Okay, let's go ahead and update the navigation. So now if we're on this page and we refresh this, our navigation appears over here. And now let's work on form permissions, data entry, data view, and administrators. I'm just going to add my name to all of those. Update permissions. Those permissions are updated. So now we can go ahead and use this form. So let's add some data in. So we'll call this test 1. And everything else is optional. Right here you have your multi-select, and you can remove whatever you'd like. Acquisition date, let's go play with this real quick. So we have the regular expression, so we have 2014-01-01. So that was one of the valid things. We'll go ahead and submit it. Invalid data provided for field acquisition date. My regular expression must be wrong. So let's go back here, form creator, acquisition date. Yes, it is wrong. I forgot a parenthesis, I believe. Let's let me double check that again. And we don't want that to be optional. We want that to be optional. Okay. Update form. Try this again. Submit. Okay, now it's been submitted successfully. Let's go ahead and create a new object. Test 2. 2014-01. Just to test the regular expression. The new object, test 3, 2014. And if we look at the list for this one, they're all going correctly. Excellent. You can see the ID number is incremented inside of the example. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a new object and upload a file. Test 4. I'm going to use this file here because I've reduced the size on it to only be about 5 megs, 4.6 megs, so it won't take too long to convert. Submit it. Files. Our files are here, just like before. Download all zip files. Not as important when there's only one file, but if you have 100 and some odd pages in a document, it's useful to have that there. Preview. Let's view the original. Okay, there's our original. Let's view the converted one. It's been downsized. The border's been placed around it. And the thumbnail, there's our thumbnail with our border around the thumbnail. And if we wanted to download it, we could download original converted or thumbnail. Let's download the converted. Downloads. And there it is. Okay. Now that's only a very basic form. Let's go ahead and take a look at the PEC form real quick. And we'll go to list forms, permanent ephemera collection. This form, these here are manual, yes, no boxes with no set to default. And then there's many multi-selects in it, as well as a single select and your image. And the image one on this one, process files in background, combine PDF, OCR, create thumbnail, are all selected. There are a lot more options in here, as well as different fields. At some point I'll do another screencast with all of the options being discussed in detail. Thank you for watching the Metadata Form Creation System screencast. I've just touched on some of the features that MFCS has to offer, and I'll be doing more screencasts in the future that demonstrate some of the more advanced topics, as well as doing some tutorials for both end users and form creators. You can get MFCS by cloning our GitHub repository, github.com/wvuelibraries/MFCS. We encourage forking and pull requests for fixes and new features. We offer a Vagrant file in the repository. So if you're using Vagrant, you can just do a Vagrant up and you'll have a working MFCS installation. Now when you're doing the Vagrant up, you may want to comment out the contents of acl.php in public HTML and in admin. Those are the ACL files for Engine API, which you'll want to use in production, but in a local Vagrant box may be a hindrance if you don't have an authentication system ready to go. Thank you for watching.